Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and today we are talking about living on purpose and in your purpose. Now, many of you know that at Business Boutique, we are all about equipping women to make money doing what they love. Now, some people think that I help people find their calling. I help people step into their calling, but I'll be the first to tell you that's actually not what I do. You know, I've talked about this before, and there are people that are amazing at this. In fact, Ken Coleman, one of my very good friends, is fantastic at helping people understand what their calling is. For me, it's just not my thing. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, the whole idea of calling is kind of overwhelming. Like the idea that there is one purpose that I was put on this earth to do just kind of intimidates me. It's a little bit paralyzing. You know what I think? I think that there are a lot of things I could do. I think there are a lot of things that you could do. I think that I'm good at a lot of things, and I think that you are good at a lot of things. So for me, it's not so much about calling. It's about helping you figure out something that you're really, really good at, that you really love doing. Now, before we dive into that, I want to give you 3 clues. These are 3 clues that are going to point you to the direction of your purpose. So let's start with the first one. The first one is that you are in your strengths. That's the first clue that you are living in your purpose and you're living on purpose if you are working and living in some capacity in your strengths. Now, here's what I believe. I believe that God created you 100% unique. There is no one in the entire universe that has your unique combination of voice and style and perspective and experience and stories and talents and interests and passion. No one has what you have like you have it. And so that means that you have a unique set of strengths. And don't you start with me, oh, Christy, I'm not good at anything. No, you don't know me. I don't have any talents. I don't have any gifts. That's not true because God made you. And God makes all of us and creates all of us with gifts and talents. And so if you're working in your strengths, if you have some work or some capacity where you get to use the gifts that God has given you, then that's a good clue. That's a good indicator that you are in your purpose. Because you know what? I think God gave you those gifts because He wants you to use them. Your gifts and your strengths are not an accident or an afterthought. God gave them to you because He wants you to enjoy them. It's kind of like recently my son Carter had a birthday. He turned 4 years old and my husband and I decided to get him a big boy bike. So this is not like a tiny tricycle. It's like a real legit bike that has gears and brakes and it has training wheels and all that stuff, but it's a big boy bike. Now we knew he would love this gift. It's getting warmer outside and we knew he would love getting to feel like a big boy and learning to ride this bike. Y'all, when we had the big reveal, he came running outside. There was a big bow and he was like, "It's for me?" We're like, "Yeah, buddy, climb on." We took all kinds of videos and pictures of Carter riding his bike. He was so focused. He was so serious, like really, really excited, but also very serious because that's his personality about this big boy bike. Now, why did we give him that gift? Why did we give him this special gift for his birthday? Well, we gave it to him because we wanted him to enjoy it and to use it. And you know what? God gave you your gifts and your strengths and your talents for the exact same reason. He wants you to enjoy them and He wants you to use them. He wants you to step into them and He wants you to use them. I believe that your strengths are a really strong clue that point you in the direction of your purpose. Now, if you need a little help learning about what God says about you, I actually have a free 7-day devotional that you can download. You can text BBDEVO to 33444 and get your copy of the Business Boutique 7-day devotional. All right, let's keep rolling. So the first clue that you are living in your purpose is that you're living in your strengths. But the second one is that you are passionate. Now, I know if you have listened to me for any amount of time, then you are probably rolling your eyes like, "Oh, so typical Christy." I just get excited. I get excited about a lot of things. But here's the thing. You get excited about things too. Just like your strengths and your gifts, you have unique interests and values and passions. You have things that excite you and things that don't excite you. You have things that you care about and things that you don't care about. And I am the same way. Let me give you some examples. I love dancing I do not love details. I get really excited about adventure and being outside and anything spontaneous. I do not love algebra or geometry or math at all, or history or science. I am passionate about people. I get really, really excited about relationships and growing and connecting and community. I get excited about all of those things. I'm not passionate about politics. But you know what's so fascinating? There are people out there in the world, and you might be one of them, that actually get excited about algebra and politics. It's true. Why is that? Because God made us unique. He didn't just give you unique strengths and gifts, He gave you unique passions and interests. See, that's what's so fascinating about this, because as you begin to understand how God created you and the things that make you unique, you get a lot of direction about what your purpose is. That's what's so amazing about learning who you are and learning what God gave you. Now, similar to your strengths, I believe God gave you your passions and interests, and they are unique to you. They're specific to you. These things that make you light up, these things that give you energy, these things that make you come alive are also not an accident. They're not an afterthought. They're not unimportant. They're actually very important, and they're a wonderful clue to what your purpose is. I love how Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." I believe that means He's not just going to fulfill the desires that you have. He's actually going to show you what those desires are in the first place. Those things that make you light up. Those things that give you joy and breathe life into you. Those things that you're passionate about are a great clue that you are living in your purpose. So what gets you excited? Is it politics or people or algebra or something else entirely? What makes you light up and come alive? What gives you energy and brings you joy? When you identify what you're passionate about and you begin to live in such a way that you are working on things and living in things that you actually care about, it's a good clue that you're moving in the direction of your purpose. All right, so the first clue that you are living in your purpose is that you're living in your strengths. The second clue is that you're passionate about what you're working on and what you're doing. The third clue that you're living in your purpose is that you are making a difference. You know, God did not create any of us to be an island. In fact, He created us to live and work in community. And while He's given you your strengths and He's given you your passions, I believe that He's given you both of those to bless other people. Of course, they are for your enjoyment, but they're also to make an impact in other people's lives. Now, regardless of the type of business that you're in, this applies to you. It doesn't matter what industry you're in or what type of business or what size of business or what stage of business. It doesn't matter if it's nonprofit or for-profit. It doesn't matter. I believe that God has given you things to bless you and to bless other people. See, when you use your gifts and your passions to help others and bless others and make a difference and make an impact, it is the most rewarding way to spend your day, to spend your week, to spend your life when you get to make a difference. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this. Whether you are teaching a fitness class or serving at your local church, or maybe you're running a clothing boutique. Maybe you're volunteering for a nonprofit. Maybe you're painting watercolor. Maybe you're running an architect firm. Maybe you are just bringing some muffins to your neighbor down the street. It doesn't matter. When you are helping and serving, you're making a difference. You're making an impact in someone else's life. And when you are making an impact, it's a great clue that you are living in your purpose. Now, I know that all three of these examples are three really tactical ways to look at it, but I love to make my teaching practical. So look at these examples in your own life. Are you living in your strengths? Are you passionate? Are you making a difference in some way? If so, it's a good sign that you're living in your purpose. Our next call is from Danae in Baton Rouge. Hey, Danae, how can I help?
Hey, Christy. So I am a creator, and I make and sell hand stamped jewelry. So when I first started, I was on Etsy, and that was the platform that I sold all of my jewelry from. But over the years, I don't really like the fees that are associated with it and how the algorithms have changed and such. So I moved to a self-hosted website. But now I'm wondering if I'm kind of killing my chances of expanding my customer base outside of my current customers because I no longer show up in search engines and stuff like that.
Okay. So this is a great question. I'll tell you, it's definitely a personal decision, but my thoughts when it comes to Etsy, especially if you have your own website, is that for the work you put into maintaining Etsy, which seems pretty minimal, it doesn't hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like for you to have a presence on Etsy when you already had a presence, so you know how it works, just being visible there can't hurt. Now, of course, you can do things to maximize your sales on Etsy where you use certain tag words and keywords and stuff, so you show up even higher. But you're still going to drive traffic to your site through your own marketing channels, your own social media. But if you want it as just another option for people to find you, I don't see how it hurts. Is there any reason that you wouldn't want to do it? You don't want to do the work or, anything like that? Or is it just, you're just kind of like, I just haven't wanted to deal with it?
Kind of both. The amount of hand stampers that now actually are in the business has grown exponentially over the last 5 years. So competition is pretty steep through Etsy. So they, in the nicest way possible, they kind of undersell people that have been doing this for a long time and maybe have higher quality work.
Right.
So these newer stampers kind of sell stuff a lot cheaper, which comes in and it kind of hurts us that have been doing it for a really long time too. So I guess that's part of the reason why I moved away from Etsy to begin with.
Okay, now you bring up a really good point. I want to camp here for a second. This is a really good point. On Etsy, because of the nature of the platforms, there are people running businesses and there are people running hobbies. And when you create a piece of jewelry, if there's another seller selling the exact same piece of jewelry, even the same materials, Danae, even the same quality, but they're selling it way cheaper, they're not making money. And you're not competing with them. Now, I know that there's a real effect on white space or customers that are just shopping for the bottom dollar. But what I would encourage you to do when you're approaching Etsy, especially because you've been there before, is I would leverage the heck out of your current customers and past customers, because what customers really want on Etsy more than the cheapest price, there are a lot of customers that want that, but there's a whole market of customers that don't care about the cheapest price. They care about great customer service and the trust relationship with their the person they've bought from. So I'll give you an example, Danae, because I shop on Etsy all the time. I will go back to a graphic designer that I've used in the past that does not have a design that I want for a Christmas card and ask her to custom make me one, because I would rather pay $5 more and work with someone that I know, that I trust, she's easy to work with, she's going to turn it fast, and so on, than to have to sift through the 5 million designs. Because when you think it's hard for you on Etsy as the seller, it's hard for consumers to weed through all the stuff. There's so much stuff, and consumers are tired. They're busy moms. They don't want to think. They don't want to expend the mental energy. So if you can really cultivate your current customer base, give them incentives to come back and buy from you again and again, super serve them at every transaction, they're going to want to come back to you and not go to the search bar. Does that make sense?
Okay.
That
does make sense.
So you have an opportunity to stand out on Etsy because of who you are and the relationship you build with your customers. And then you're not competing against the hobby runners and the people that are trying to undercut you. It's not going to completely capture all the market, because there's still going to be a segment of the market that wants to pay the cheapest price, but it does give you a unique advantage to compete with. And I think that's an aspect of Etsy that a lot of people miss. But again, Danae, it's up to you. You've got your own website. I don't think it hurts to be there. It can only help and only drive more sales, but it's your business. And that's one of those things that it's your choice. If you want to be there, great. And if you don't, there's no wrong answer. Thanks for calling in. I think this is a really good point about Etsy, because so many women get started on Etsy because it's easy. They walk you through the process. It's this unbelievable platform. They do all the, calculate the tax. They help you upload the pictures, all that stuff. But keep in mind, if you are in a handmade business, especially a business that is very common, you do monogramming. Well, there's 9 million monogrammers. Okay, so how are you going to stand out from the competition? How are you going to uniquely serve your customers? Maybe your personal brand and just your style of taking care of people, because you go above and beyond, is the reason they come to you and even are willing to pay a little bit more because they love you so much. So don't just think of yourself as, I'm one more product-based business in this massive sea of businesses that are similar. Think of yourself as unique and leverage yourself as unique, and your customers will see you as unique and they will come back again and again for you specifically. Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and today I have a challenge for you. I know the topic of selling and sales is really uncomfortable. Many of you, even if you've been in business for a while, might feel a little bit uncomfortable with selling. I get it. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to get on people's nerves. I hear you. I don't either. But here's the great news. Sales doesn't have to be like that at all. I want to share an example with you that I experienced several years ago. When I was doing research for people with side businesses way before Business Boutique, I had a series of questions that I asked every single person that I researched. Every person that I had a phone interview with, I asked them the same set of questions. Well, one of the questions about 10 minutes into the interview was, how do you feel about selling? How do you feel about sales? Y'all, every single person said the same thing. Oh, I don't like selling. I don't like sales. I'm not salesy. I'm just not like that. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to twist people's arms. I don't want to be aggressive. I don't want to. I heard a lot of that. I said, okay, great. Made all my notes. Well, about 10 minutes later in the interview, I asked them a different question. I said, why do you love this business? Why does it matter to you? Why is it important to you? And y'all, you heard an audible shift in the tone of their voice as they described why they love this business. I remember one photographer telling me, oh, I love capturing these moments and memories that matter, that families will treasure for a lifetime, from maternity photos to senior pictures to family fall photos for their Christmas cards. I love capturing these moments. I remember one woman, she sewed handmade girls' little dresses. And she said, I love seeing little girls in the church lobby on Sunday morning, twirling around, showing off, feeling so fancy in a dress that I sewed them. Y'all, as they told me their story, as they shared their heart, I wanted to buy from them right then and there. I wanted to sign up and buy some little girls' dresses, and I don't even have little girls. Y'all, I have little boys. That is the power of story. Don't sell. Don't push. Don't get on people's nerves. I hope you don't. Instead, share your heart. Share your story. When you share your story and your heart and your why behind this business, the sale will naturally follow. People don't care about all the pros and cons and features and benefits. They care about your heart. Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. So you better know why you do it. And more than that, you better share why you do it. Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because today I get to share an awesome conversation with you that I had with my good friend, Laura Casey. Laura is the author of the books Cultivate and Make It Happen. She is also the creator of Power Sheets, and she's the host of the Cultivate Your Life podcast. You are going to love her. Check out this conversation. Laura, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a joy. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about this. We were just saying this even before we started recording. I'm such a fan of yours, and this is long overdue, and I just love it when I find people, specifically women, that are just kindred spirits in this space of championing women, helping women identify their calling or their gifts or their talent or their purpose, and you are so in that space doing that. So I'd love it as we get started if you would just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what your business is and what you do.
Yes, so I'm the CEO of a company called Cultivate What Matters. We make goal planners and tools to help women live out their purpose right where they are. I'm also the mom of three, and we recently retired another part of our business, Southern Weddings Magazine. So I have a varied path in business, and I'm super excited to be here with you, Christy.
Oh, this is awesome. I love it. And I've followed you for a while and been a fan of yours. And so I'd love it if we could kind of go back to the beginning, because I love hearing people's story. I know for you, it didn't start overnight. And this is something that has really evolved over time. So let's kind of go back to the beginning of how you got into this in the first place and where you even really got the idea.
Yeah, so I always giggle when I start telling this part of the story because if anybody looks at my path on paper, they say, okay, you're the CEO of this multimedia company and you've had a very successful magazine for 10 years. You obviously had a business degree, right? And I don't, I'm sure like many listening. I have a very untraditional path to get here. So I actually have a degree in music theater.
I love
I could
it.
sing maybe some of my business stuff for you, but But it's funny, sometimes we look back at our paths to where we are now, and some of the pieces can feel very disconnected. But I'm so grateful to look back and see how deeply connected each one of my pieces is. So, for instance, being in theater, I used the gifts of music and sound and lighting and production to bring someone's motivations and their story to life. It's the same thing that happened when I then moved into, later on, a big career change into the world of wedding planning, using the same things, music and sound and production, to bring someone's love story to life. Also had a lot of time being a personal trainer. And again, all these things on my path may look like a zigzag, but they were really all part of the same heart. And that is to help people uncover what matters to them and then to do something about it. So through that path, I came up to a point where my husband was just deployed to Iraq with the Marines. And I had just dabbled in wedding planning at the time, a little bit in personal training, and I needed a project to keep my mind occupied. I needed something to keep my brain off of bomb threats. This was right at the height of the Iraq War, and you probably remember it was the time when we would see names of fallen soldiers across the screen every day. And so one night, I sat at my little 13-inch PC, and I started to dream. I started to think, what if I could create beauty in this world that feels very broken right now? I mean, I don't have a degree in any of this stuff, but what if? And so I started to mock up a wedding magazine cover on my little computer using Microsoft Publisher. And it really snowballed pretty quickly into Southern Weddings Magazine. And now here we are 10 years later. So that is the very short version of the long story. But really the through line in it is that I do believe that our purpose, it starts a long time ago. And layer by layer, the fears fall off and we start to step into things that are part of our purpose. And then it really becomes crystal clear the more you get into it.
I love it. I love so many examples from your story that really are in line with many of the women that I talk to, Laura, at all different in all different industries, different types of businesses, different stages of business and that type of thing, where it's so funny. We get this mindset that, well, if I have a business degree, then it gives me permission to go start a business. And if I don't, then it doesn't. Right. And what's so crazy is the majority of businesses are run by people that don't have a business background. And then you may have lots of people that have all the degrees in the world and they don't do anything with it. And so I just love your tenacity and your go-getter attitude and just, not taking no for an answer. You're like, I'm just going to figure it out as I go, which is what all the most successful people do. Now, I know one of the things that you talk about a lot, and I love this. You talk about living on purpose. And this is something that I've gotten more and more interested in as I've become a mom and had to juggle more things. I'm like, let me be intentional in these areas versus just reacting and kind of floating along through life. But I'd love to hear from you. What does that mean to you? Like, let's just break down that phrase. Let's start there. Yes. Living on purpose. And I know you talk about this. So let's just kind of start. Why is this important to you? And what does that really mean to you?
It's important to me because I tend to fall into the opposite bucket. Okay. I tend to fall into the living by accident way of life, which I feel like so many of us can identify with that. And I used to come to the end of a year and I would get so frustrated. I would just look back and think, I could have made progress on the things that really matter to me, whether it's in my business, in my marriage, in my mothering, whatever it is, if I would have just, first of all, remembered my purpose, remembered my goals. I forgot about most of them because it's just in one ear and out the other starting on January 1st. But I got so frustrated and I started to study this because I needed it myself. How do people do these extraordinary things or even do seemingly mundane things well? And one thing I started to notice is that people who live with intention, people who live on purpose, if you will, instead of by accident, they have a big picture vision. And so I started to ask myself, okay, where do I want to be when I'm 80, 90, 100 years old? Where do I want to be in the big picture? And then what does that mean for today? And it's a very life-altering question because it makes you think, okay, if that is what's going to matter to me when I'm at the end of my days, how can I start living like it today? And that's where I started to approach this new way of thinking about my purpose. It wasn't about my job or my vocation. It was about looking at that big picture of what's going to be important and bridging the gap to today.
I love that. It sounds a lot like one of the exercises we do here at Ramsey Solutions, which is when we're, in brainstorming meetings or strategy meetings with Business Boutique or any department, really, we will say, okay, what is our 3 to 5 year vision? So we're not talking about 80 to 90, but we're talking about 3 to 5 years from now, where do we want to be? And then we paint that picture and we, visualize it and we imagine it, dream it, put it on the whiteboard. And then we back out of it, exactly like you're saying. We say, okay, if that is where we're going, then what has to be true today to get me there? And so, an example I use, Laura, I got a call on the Dave Ramsey show whenever I was co-hosting with him. This was months ago. But a woman said in the same breath, I want to pay off my house in 5 years and I want to start a blog to do that. And I thought, okay, either of those are good ideas.
Right.
I don't think one is going to lead to the other. Realistically, if you want me to be honest with you, you can pay off your house in 5 years. We're probably going to need a different path. Something different must be true today to get you there. Or you can start a blog, and that's not necessarily going to lead to your home being paid off. Or you can do both, but it's going to be different resources. So I think often there's this disconnect that you're talking about. Maybe we have the big picture vision of here's what I want to be doing in 5 years. I want a promotion. I want to grow my business. I want to hire more people. But then we don't make the connection between how that vision directs today's daily activities, the mundane tasks, the to-do list, the daily appointments, and that type of thing. So I love how you are kind of making this connection. It's something we do here. I'd love to know, when did you learn this? How did you learn this? And what did you learn? Like when you said you poured yourself into kind of researching this and trying to figure it out, what did you learn? What was that whole experience like?
Yeah, so after college, when I was a personal trainer in New York City, I was still using that same thing that I had learned in my schooling of understanding someone's motivations and then how do you get their objective accomplished. So it's the same thing in theater that I did in personal training. And in personal training, I had a client come to me. It was a gentleman that came to me and he said, so here's my goal. My goal is I want to lose 20 pounds because that's what I weighed in college. And in my heart of hearts, I knew that that was a very self-defeating goal. Like guilt-filled goals are not going to really get you too far for very long. But instead of just flat out telling him that, I started to ask him questions to peel back the layers of, okay, what is actually important to you in the big picture? And for me, it's really helpful to look at what's not going to be important in the big picture. Not just what do I want to add to my life in the big picture, but what do I want to stay away from? And so once we started to peel the layers back, we came up with a new goal. Instead of I want to lose 20 pounds because that's what I weighed in college, the more purpose-filled goal was I want to live a long and healthy life because I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. I know, right? I have chills saying that. That's motivating. And here's the reason why. Because we're going to fail. We're going to fail every day in the pursuit of our purpose. We're going to have missteps. All progress is imperfect progress. But if your goal, if your purpose is so clear to you, that big picture vision, then it's going to be okay when you make those missteps. You're still going to feel motivated to, say, fall down 7 times, you're going to get up 8 times. And that's what it was for him. Instead of just a number on a scale, it was, okay, I messed up today, but I still have this fire to keep going, even though I messed up. And so it becomes about progress, not perfection. And that's where these daily little steps really start to add up into a whole new life.
I love that. I love that example because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, Laura, as you know, and it's very easy for me to connect with entrepreneurs because I'm an entrepreneur and we are wired a very specific way. We are all in or all out. Like we are all or nothing. We're hot or cold. There's no in between. We're working out every day or we're eating Oreos by the sleeve on the couch doing nothing. Like this is a really hard concept for us of progress, not perfection. And I think that's such an important point. That analogy for me, that's really hard. Like that's hard to, it's easy to say, it's hard to do because when you fall short of your goal or you lost 15 pounds but not 20, or you got 15 new clients, not 30 new clients. I think that's a really hard thing to do. You know, you've been a personal trainer and you work with people all the time. How do you deal with the disappointment of not meeting the goal?
It's about celebrating what you want to see more of. And that means when you're embracing this idea of progress, not perfection, you really are embracing the way all things work. So I feel like we have to retrain our brains because just like you said, somewhere along the line, we learned that it's either all or nothing. We live in these extremes, right? But if we just even take a look outside our window, like I'm a very unlikely gardener, but in my garden, my peaches don't just grow overnight. I don't just stick a seed in the ground and then expect to dump a bucket of water on it and then poof, I have a full tree full of peaches. And it's the same with the purposeful pursuit we have of our goals, our dreams, this vision that we have. There's no way it will actually grow perfectly. In fact, if I were to look back at the perceived successes I've had versus the perceived failures, I have grown so much more, even on my bottom line, from the failures than I have from those successes.
Wow.
So I really think that part of it is retraining our brains to say, did anything that I feel like I am very good at right now, did any of that come through perfect progress? Probably not, right?
Right.
There's probably at some point you had some struggle, you had a misstep here or there, and that's what led you to the growth. So I think it's just a blanket fact. All progress is imperfect progress. When you learn to embrace that, you really do learn to cultivate, and that is to prepare the soil of your life for good things to grow over time.
I love that. I love this gardening example. I'm terrible at gardening as well, Laura. So it's like, it sounds like you grow things. I don't grow things. I start out with some cilantro and it's like a forest before I even, you know what I mean? Like it's turning yellow, it's growing flowers. Cilantro is not supposed to have flowers. I don't understand. Anyway, that's a side note. But what I love about this analogy is, in addition to the fact that, to your point, it doesn't grow overnight, I think it's really important for us to remember you will reap what you sow. So you weren't surprised when you grew peaches because you planted peach seeds, right? So like, if we think of this correlation even in our daily activities, in 3 to 5 years, or when you're 80 or 90, you will grow what you've planted today. You will reap what you've sown today. And so if you want to grow healthy, you will need to, plant and sow healthy today. And so I think those things, again, are so easy to understand, but so hard to do. I'm curious how you feel about this idea of reacting to life. And so let's talk about this, because I think, like you said, so many people do it and they don't mean to. They really don't. It's not like they set out to waste 5 years of their life living by other people's expectations or denying their own desires and dreams. What do you think's going on? Why do you think we do this where we just spend our life reacting to everything else and we neglect our own desires and dreams that are buried within us?
Well, two things. One, I think that there's a lot of noise out there. I think that we are subject to a whole lot of noise, whether it's comparison on social media or, like you said, the expectations of others. But the biggest thing is we have to understand how our brains work. So our brains, in falling into the habits, are doing the same old things we've always done, getting the same results we've always gotten. Actually, our brain is trying to protect us because our brains seek out pattern, they seek out habit. They want to do the same old thing. They want to just react to life because it's more comfortable. It doesn't require retraining our brains or anything like that. So I think that's another really wonderful, freeing thing, is to accept the fact that if you are going to choose change in your life, if you're going to choose to really intentionally pursue the purpose that you've been given, the how you get there doesn't matter as much as why. And your brain is going to have to be shaken up a little bit. It's going to feel physically uncomfortable. It's much like if I were to set a goal to, and you are a runner, I'm going to call you that, you're a runner, because I've never run 20-something miles. Say you're a runner, you want to be more of a runner, you set up a goal to run a 5K, because part of your purpose is to live a long and healthy life, to be able to walk your daughter down the aisle, whatever it is. If I don't have that heart purpose with it, a SMART goal plus heart equals a goal that's going to actually go somewhere. If I don't have that heart behind it, then my brain is just going to go sit on that couch. My brain is going to say protection mode. So that's what's happening, is that we think that the right path must feel comfortable, right? Like the pursuit of our purpose in life, being intentional in life, that must feel really good, right? I will say that eventually it probably will, if you allow your brain to be retrained and go into this zone of being uncomfortable and outside of your comfort zone. But it's going to take that work at first to go into new habits and patterns.
I love that, because it really is just completely busting the myth that it's going to be easy. It's going to feel good. You're going to feel confident. It's going to be a perfect path to success. And
Smooth
I love this.
Sailing.
I love this idea because I love the way you describe heart purpose behind your goal. The way that I tell women is you need two things. You need to want it bad enough and be willing to work hard enough. If you don't want it, you're not going to do the work. And so it doesn't matter if your friend cooks meals every single night or your friend works out every day or your friend is a doctor. If you don't want those things that bad. Like I don't want those things that bad. So I don't do the work, you know what I'm saying? And so I think the motivation, the why as you're describing is really, really important because that's going to dictate our behavior. But again, to your point, at first, it will be hard. So don't be surprised by the fact that it's hard. Just go ahead and expect that it will be hard. Like I'll give you an example, Laura. This is very timely for me. So I worked out this morning. I need to go ahead and tell you that's the first time I've worked out in the morning in months. And I am a workout person. I love to work out. It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable getting out of bed. It was 4:00 in the stinking morning. It was dark outside. I knew before I set my alarm, this is going to be uncomfortable. But the thing it came down to, and this doesn't always work, but it did this morning for once in my life, is the idea that the feel-good feeling of working out outweighs the feel-bad feeling of waking up early. And I just had to remind myself that the reward is worth the sacrifice. So I'm going to think about the reward. I'm going to think about how I'm going to feel afterwards and not think about, oh, it's so early, it's so dark, I'm so tired, that type of thing. But I love this idea of expecting discomfort, but it's worth it in the end. And then we can go ahead and just get our head around it. Yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable, but it's worth it. Okay, I've got a question about specifically women, how a lot of times we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And so let's talk about that. What are some of the ways that you've seen women put pressure on themselves? And you alluded to this with social media, but I'm curious anything else. What are some ways that we put pressure on each other, either directly or indirectly, passive-aggressively, or just straight out aggressively? Like, let's just talk about the ways that we kind of are collecting all this pressure all the time that I think compounds this issue of neglecting our desires and kind of reacting through life.
Yeah, I love that you asked this, and just the insight too about how we kind of indirectly do this to each other too. We expect so much of each other, and the truth is we can't do it all and do it well. To use another garden analogy is that when I have planted tomato plants too close together in my garden, you know what happens? They start to suck the life out of each other.
They get tangled up, they sure do.
They do. Their roots get tangled up. They start to take valuable nutrients away from each other. And that's what we do when we plant too many things in our lives is if we fill our plates up, because usually, at least for me, I don't know about anybody else, but usually when I fill my plate up too much, it's usually out of fear. It's out of fear of, if I don't do all of this and do it perfectly, I will not be enough. If I don't succeed in this pursuit or hit this goal, I will not be valuable. And it really does come down to a deep-seated fear for so many women. But I think the way we do that is by exposing those things, is by saying, why am I feeling this pressure right now? What is it? And kind of digging at those roots, because usually a weed is not about what's on the surface. It's the damaging part is what's below the soil. So I would say stop right now and say, where is an area where I feel like I'm completely spent, just completely overwhelmed, or I feel like this part of my life is very far off track of the purpose that I so badly want to live in. And then just do a little check-in. This is hard because we don't like to feel things. Sometimes we just want to move on. We just want to keep achieving, keep on moving. But if you allow yourself to just stop and ask yourself, why? Why am I trying to do all these things? And does this align with that big picture vision of where I want to be when I'm 80, 90, 100, and what's going to matter to me and what doesn't? It starts to simplify your life now. It starts to take the pressure off. Because if what's important to me in the big picture is relationships, for instance, I hear this from thousands of women over the last 10 years, as opposed to numbers on social media, then what are the things that I have on my to-do list? How are those aiding in achieving that big picture vision? And if they're not, cross them off.
Yeah, that's good. I think one of the things that really plays into this as well, certainly for women that tend to be very relational and very nurturing, and we want to, we're achievers, all these layers of our what motivates us. Guilt or a sense of duty, obligation, responsibility is a real big piece of this. I'd love to hear from you as a working mom, a business owner of 3 kids. As you get more successful, you just have to say no to more. You do. So talk to me about how you do that. How do you kind of break that guilt and have the confidence to say no, and talk us through that? Because that's something I'm living out every day. Truly, this is a real struggle.
I hear you, sister. So I've been joking lately that if I were to write another book, it would be called No or No, No, No.
I would buy that book, Laura.
But seriously, I've been thinking, like, to me, this is the year of saying no because, I'll give you a really big picture example. One is that we've had 2 very successful growing companies over the last 10 years. Cultivate What Matters just kind of like swooped out and grew out of the success of Southern Weddings. People started asking me for business advice and how do you achieve your goals? And that's where it came from. And so we came up to a crux this past year, early this year, of saying, okay, we are a small team of 9 women. We do this mostly here in my house, here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We are a small business. How are we going to keep these 2 very growing businesses growing without doubling our team size, doubling everything? It just wasn't something I was willing to do because of my focus on my purpose, which I just started homeschooling my daughter, Grace. I'm running a team. I want to have a strong marriage. My faith is my number one important thing to me. So the thought of doubling these businesses just wasn't working. And I started to feel this restlessness. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. That when you get faced with, whether it's a book endorsement or a social engagement or whatever it is, and you think, man, I really don't think that this is right for me in this season, but I don't want to go through the guilt of saying no. I don't want to disappoint people. You can imagine we struggled heavily with this with these businesses and ultimately made the decision to retire Southern Weddings. And it's hard to say no to especially something that is good, that is growing.
That's right.
But my real answer, the way I did it is because I had to say a better yes to being able to help women, not just in an engagement or marrying stage, but in any stage of life through Cultivate What Matters.
Yeah.
That, what we call the profit of people, was more important to me than even the dollar profit in some ways.
Yeah.
We knew we would have a greater impact. So how do I do that? Whether it's something on my schedule or for me too, I get a lot of those book endorsements and it's like dear friends that I want to say yes to. Sometimes the most freeing thing you can do, not just for you to say no, but even for the other person, is to say no and give the real reason why.
That's right. Yes.
Because I think if we see other women do that, we say, oh, you know what? That wasn't so bad. I can do this. I can say
survived.
no. We survived.
I love that.
Yes.
I always say an honest no is better than a dishonest yes. And
Absolutely.
I would rather someone shoot me straight and tell me the truth, even if it's not what I want to hear, than tell me what I want to hear that's not honest. I think we all value honesty, even if it may be hard to hear. Well, I know that must have been a really difficult season for you and difficult decision to make. I'd love to know now, even the business side of this, Laura, for you to make the decision that you don't want to grow a team. Let's just talk about that. So it's not even so much about retiring the business. That was the first business, the baby, and all the emotions tangled up in that, something that's good and growing. But to do something that seems counterintuitive, countercultural, counter-growth, to say, I have the opportunity to grow my team, I have the opportunity to grow more money, more of all the things. What was that like? Because, and let me tell you really quickly why I'm asking. So many women that I work with have a level that they want to get something to, and they want to keep it there. And they feel a lot of pressure, more, bigger, better. And I tell them, I want you to chase your version of success. For example, 90% of women-owned businesses don't have team members, not because they can't have them. Many don't want them. They don't want the responsibility of another person, and I think that's fine. But for you, when you have the opportunity in front of you to grow, and maybe even feel the pressure from other people or customers to grow, talk to me about the business decision to not grow, essentially, in that way.
Yeah. Well, for us, it was a decision to grow, but it was countercultural in the way that it was a decision to grow at a rooted pace. I say rooted because it's easy to like throw a tree in your yard that's a fast-growing tree, and they take root very shallowly. So say you grow a tree that's going to grow like 20 feet, like homeowners like that, like new homeowners, they're like, I want to fill my yard up with trees to increase my property value. But a storm comes along and that tree's going to knock itself over. And so for us, we knew that we could immediately double the size of our team. I could stretch myself thin. We would make a lot more money right off the bat, but would I have a better impact potential over time? Yes, if I said no to that thing. So for us, it was a decision to say no to one thing so that we could grow slowly over time, but also It was an answered prayer is what it was. It was saying, okay, I believe through so much prayer and like counsel, and I got so much business counsel about this too, that we completed the work we were given to do with Southern Weddings. And I think that that's something that we don't usually think about when closing a business. A lot of people close businesses for various reasons, or maybe it's a financial reason or whatever. For us, it was, actually, I think that this is it. This is what we were supposed to do. And so that's very freeing to know that it's okay to let go of one dream in favor of opening up a door to a whole nother world of dreams that you don't even know anything about yet. But sometimes it takes closing that one door before the other door can even present itself.
I like that. I like that example. Even in scripture, it talks about seasons. And I struggle with seasons, Laura, because I just want everything to be forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like everything, I feel like it needs to be forever, and everything can't be forever. So I love that you had the wisdom and discernment to even know this is the season. We did what we were supposed to do, and this is this new season. As the Bible says, see, I'm doing a new thing. So I love that. And Laura, you have a lot of gardening and a lot of planting examples.
I have a lot of gardening today.
You got a lot of gardening. So we've got.
You know what though? I believe you could become a gardener too. If I can, I've killed so many plants in my life. We'll talk about that another time.
You can teach me your ways, Laura. I have like 5 questions I didn't even get to. I just so enjoy talking to you. You are just a wealth of knowledge, and I love your story. I love your heart. I love your passion for women, and I just love getting to see you shine in this space. I'd love it as we wrap up if you would let our viewers and listeners know how they can connect with you and see all the things that you're working on and learn more.
Well, thank you so much, Christy. I have to thank you for the work that you do. You are helping women to live their purpose, and I'm just very grateful. You can find more out about Cultivate What Matters at cultivatewhatmatters.com. You can find me on social media at Laura Casey.
Awesome. Well, Laura, you are just a light in this space. Thanks so much for taking some time with us today.
Oh, it's a joy. Thank you.
All right, our next call is from Judy in Indianapolis. Hey, Judy, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I saw you in Nashville.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for calling. What's going on?
I have a music studio. I've had it for 25 years. I teach piano. I am the only employee. I teach out of my home. I started out 25 years ago with a fee of $50 a month for 4 30-minute lessons. About 10 years ago, I upped that fee to $60 a month for 4 30-minute lessons. I have 60 students, which is the max I can teach and still sleep.
Yeah.
And so my husband has been noticing music studios around town, and I am the lowest priced music teacher in probably most of the state of Indiana. The typical going rate for piano lessons where I live right now is from between $80 and $125 a month for 4 lessons. And when there's 5 days in that month that you would get a lesson, you pay extra for that. I do not charge extra for that 5th day. When it occurs, it doesn't happen that much. I also provide all my students' books free of charge. No other teachers do that at all. I teach children from the age of about 5 to the age of about 18. And I teach quite a few special needs children, which our special need is autism and vision impaired with blind students. My husband wants me to raise my prices.
Okay, Judy, I'm gonna give you a really quick answer because I love questions like this because they are easy. You have to raise your prices. It's not optional, Judy. You and your husband and I are right on the same page. Your fear of raising your prices is only a fear because you believe people come to you because you're the cheapest. And being the cheapest is a bad pricing plan where whoever wins the race loses. You're not slightly cheaper, you are insanely cheaper. And so what I want you to do is not just raise your prices, I want you to gradually raise your prices every 6 months to a year, maybe every season if you do this by season, over the next 2 years. I don't want you to still be quote unquote competitive where you're still the cheapest. You need to be competitive in the line with the market. That is $80 to $100 a month. You need to charge extra for books. You need to charge extra for the extra dates. You think you're doing your customers a favor by being the cheapest, but you need to charge a price that's fair, not just for the customers, but for you. Not just to reach your income level, but even for your branding. You don't want to be branded as the cheapest. You don't want to be branded. That people associate qualities with that of like, oh, well, she's the cheapest. Oh, well, it's the cheapest. There are people that want to pay more, and you're missing out on that market because you're the cheapest. So Judy, you can inform your current customer base, give them a heads up about 6 weeks in advance at least. Say, hey, our new prices, and it's the new year. Say our 2019 prices are, and that'll give them a good heads up so they know it's coming. But you got to do it. And don't apologize for it. And don't explain it. You have nothing to apologize for. You're way undercharging. You can gradually increase this over time, keep your customer base, and even if you lose a few, so what? You will. You'll gain new ones that want to pay more. And in the end, you'll benefit from it.